Guess who just bought another $350 million worth of Bitcoin? Blackrock filed for Bitcoin ETF. Now analysts are saying there's about a 50% chance. 50% chance. That's pretty massive. Before, it was probably like 0% because no one thought that Gary or SEC is going to allow a Bitcoin spot ETF. But 50%, that's pretty good. And keep in mind, BlackRock is not the only one. There's a lot of fund managers and companies that are looking to come out. Fidelity announced they're doing a spot ETF. And of course, others like ARK Invest also has theirs. And there's just a ton of them. A ton of them, right? And look at all these other big boys, like the biggest banks like JP Morgan, Morgan Stanley, Goldman Sachs, BNY Mellon, Invesco, Bank of America. You know, they're either doing Bitcoin ETFs too or doing some kind of service, okay, like crypto trading or custodian or something. They're all involved. When you have $27 trillion of assets under management, just a little bit, just a little tiny bit, 5% of that, if 5% went into Bitcoin, okay, just 5% of all those assets went in Bitcoin, that's around $310,000 per Bitcoin. That would still give the market cap of Bitcoin, it would bring it up substantially, but it would still be half of gold. So think about that. How much potential is there? Microstrategy purchased another 12,333 Bitcoin for approximately $347 million. I just rounded up, yes, $350 million. Okay, average price actually lower than where it is right now. Usually, you know, Saylor buys high, and then announces it later. I don't know why, but recently he's been buying low, so that's good. So he's in a profit already. At an average price of $28,136, right? Now MicroStrategy holds $152,333. Average price of $29,668, and total $4.52 billion. Michael Saylor is preparing for the future. You know, all this talks about, well, Bitcoin going up to 250,000, but what about what we just talked about? What if when Bitcoin goes to 310,000, 600,000, $1 million, right? What is that's going to make Michael Saylor basically one of the richest men on earth. He's already there. He's a billionaire, but this is going to put him up there. He may become the first trillionaire on earth. It's crazy. It's crazy. But goes back to my point. You know, this may be the reason why Bitcoin had a huge jump, because you have just one entity that has bought more than $250 million of the Bitcoin. Who knows who else is buying so much behind the scenes? It can't just be Michael Saylor and MicroStrategy. BlackRock and Fidelity, all these guys, they may be buying it via OTC market. No one knows, right? But it shows you how scarce Bitcoin is. People just don't realize it yet. Bitcoin is the scarcest asset that we have, and we don't want to let all the big whales and institutions gobble up all of it. We want some for ourselves, okay? So keep that in mind. And I've showed this before, and it makes perfect sense why the supply, Bitcoin supply, has been dropping ever since 2020. Okay, it's always been on a rise. Since the inception of Bitcoin, exchange reserves have been going up. But why all of a sudden it started turning in 2020? Why did it start coming down? That's almost exactly the point when Michael Saylor and MicroStrategy decided on their Bitcoin strategy and started accumulating Bitcoin. That is it. Michael Saylor bought his first Bitcoin around $8,000. That's like exactly around that point. So I believe this is happening because of the institutions. Because they started buying up via OTC behind the scenes. That's why it's been dropping and will continue to drop more and more and more. I think that's exactly the reason why people don't understand, oh, why did it start dropping? It's because you have institutions that hold hundreds of thousands of Bitcoins now, including Grayscale, who owns 640,000 Bitcoins, right? You put that with Sailors, put a few other, I mean, we're talking about over millions of Bitcoins being removed. That's exactly the reason. GBTC, their premium discount from, well, before there was a premium, now there's a discount, okay? Versus GBTC is supposed to be tracking the price of Bitcoin right now. There's still a 33% discount, but that is the narrowest gap in over a year. It used to be in the 40s, okay? But demand is coming up, the discount may be narrowing. I mean, if you're thinking, well, what does it matter? Can you redeem for Bitcoins? No, you can't. But it just shows you demand for Bitcoin or Bitcoin-related stocks, in this case a trust, is heating up. It's barely ticked up, but there's a lot more coming. But I'd rather hold MicroStrategy stock than GBTC, to be honest. MicroStrategy stock is the closest thing we have to a spot Bitcoin ETF. Bitcoin itself, besides being gobbled up, Crypto Quant says is very, very unlikely to hit bottom again, meaning going back to 15,000. I agree. He's using this MVRVZ scale, which this is what it looks like. And I'm going to remove my camera. So you could see, basically, this shows how Bitcoin hits a bottom, and then it stays there for a while, and then it breaks out, and when it breaks out, Bitcoin starts rallying. Okay, so that's really what it comes down to. And this shows, yes, that we have come out from a bottom, right? Every single cycle, you have a bottom point, you have a consolidation point, you have the low point of a 4-year cycle, and then afterwards you start a new cycle. This is why I argue we started a new cycle. Okay, we're in another bull cycle already. It's just that we're at the very beginning, not the tail end. But yes, we have started a new cycle already, a bullish one. I call every cycle bullish because they are. They are. Here's one kind of showing the same thing. You know, like I could show a million of these graphs, and they're all showing very, very, very positive things about Bitcoin right now. I mean, because there's no other way. There's no other way. You could go through all the past cycles and all the past bottom points, and you look at the recoveries of them, right? We're mimicking that. I mean, there's no other way to describe it. You look at what happened in 2015, you look at what happened in 2019. I mean, there's so many similarities. History does not repeat, but it tends to rhyme. And that's exactly what's happening right now. Okay? There's no way to dispute that. Even the bears, there's nothing you can say. Bitcoin is in recovery mode right now. Okay? And it's pretty obvious that institutions and microsailor continue to buy up all the Bitcoin they can while things are still cheap.